Once upon a time, humans and monsters lived together on the surface. However, it wasn't long until a war broke out between the two factions, ending with the monsters being exiled to the underground. Interactions between the two races are seemingly non-existent, that is, until a human child enters the realm of monsters. Whether that child will bring harm or harmony to the shunned creatures is completely up to you. Advertising itself with the tagline, the RPG game where you don't have to destroy anyone, Undertale tries to break free of the usual RPG tropes of fighting your way towards the last boss of the game. At the start of a battle, you can either attack a monster or act in more non-threatening ways, like having a little chat, giving compliments, or maybe you really want to pet that cute dog monster thing over there. Conflicts can be solved via understanding the monster's emotional state. Some don't even want to fight you, others may not realize that they're hurting you in the first place. Making a monster less wary of you results in the possibility to show mercy and don't kill them for getting in your way. Sure, you don't get any XP to level up, but no one had to die at the end. While it may sound not that exciting to be such a pacifist all the time, the humor conveyed in those battles and the antics among the monsters is already enjoyable enough. On that note, if you do decide to use violence, the combat of Undertale is pretty simple, no special attacks, but mostly time-based actions. Fortunately, the combat does not end in funny dialogue or your base attacks, but adds the shoot-'em-up genre as well. In fact, in an old interview with The Escapist, the creator of the game Toby Fox particularly mentions Toho as the main influence for these shoot-'em-up segments. Regardless, that is not going to mean that it is just as difficult as these kind of games are. During the attack phase of the monster, your health is represented by a little heart that has to avoid the bullets of your enemies, aka soon-to-be friends. Every new monster has a different attack pattern. Multiple monsters even can change up the battle entirely by adding their own movesets at the same time. Throughout the game, different mechanics are introduced, adding some interesting variety as you don't know exactly what to expect during the next boss fight. If not in combat, you will be tasked to solve rather easy puzzles. While not being very challenging, the puzzle's simple nature is tied to the narrative of the game and can be forgiven in my opinion. To be honest, it's not like I wanted to get stuck in puzzles, but rather continue the story and meet more of these lovable characters. Speaking of which, for me, the biggest enjoyment of this game came from interacting with the cast of Undertale. You may still choose to be violent towards them, but depending on how high your bloodlust is, your experience won't be that great. I could introduce you to the characters like Goat Mom, Papyrus and many others, but to be honest, I think that would take away from your experience when you were to play the game for yourself. So let me just say that. In my experience, not many video games are actually able to make you reflect upon your own actions. Take the gem Spec Ops The Line for example, which quite daringly made a statement about the horrors we commit in video games, particularly shooters, by holding us responsible. Undertale as well calls the player out, but does so even more intimately. This is something that I did not only experience myself, but saw for many other people as well. I think the regrets people feel about killing these monsters or even straight up denying to do so speaks volumes for the quality of those characters. Like, seriously, when was the last time you actually felt bad that you killed a virtual being or had second thoughts about doing so in the first place? Because of the humor, Undertale can be a very light-hearted game at times. This alone wouldn't make much of an impact, but fortunately, there's a good balance between a humorous tone and a downright disturbing one. It's worth mentioning that the creator Toby used to make ROM hacks for other games, thus Undertale can feel like a spiritual successor at times. The actual world of Undertale is visually quite simple, and that's alright if you ask me. As an indie game, it's not unusual to prefer a pixelated look. It all comes down to how well that style is implemented. And in this case, the environments had all a distinct feel to them. Interestingly enough, the player character is possibly the least detailed one. This may have been intentional to make him stand out more, but more advanced animations, similar to the rest of the cast, or a visual change upon equipping certain items, would have been appreciated. Musically, Undertale has a broad set of dramatic, calm, upbeat, or omniscient tracks. Every song seems to hit just the right notes, and I pretty much guarantee you that these tracks won't be leaving your mind anytime soon, once you have played through the game, or maybe even now, considering it's what you've been listening to all this time. No widescreen? Possibly developer choice. At the end, it all comes down to spaghetti. A ghost with self-esteem issues, what more do you want? Alright, so let's sum up Undertale's selling points. We've got a pacifistic playstyle where no one necessarily has to die, pretty fun shoot 'em up segments that keep on changing their rules, a pretty amazing cast of characters that goes along with a really funny writing, memorable tracks that just won't leave my mind, a good play with your own expectations, not only gameplay wise but also in the story progression, and of course a good balance of lightheartedness and terror, ending in a very interesting tone throughout the whole game. No, I'm not saying that Undertale has no problems, cause it certainly does, but most of these issues this game has are usually debatable, or simply a matter of taste. This game just isn't very challenging in a puzzle department, but it's tied to the narrative, so, you can forgive it. Killing the monsters is just way less fun, and there's clearly a push for you to stay pacifistic all the time. The design and the animations of the main character are just so extremely basic. Personally, I could get over it. This game has multiple endings. Of course there are the two obvious ones, which is killing everything or not doing so, but there are also a lot of in-betweens that change the outcome of the game. So it does may feel that you're missing out sometimes, but if you do one proper one, which will be like 6 to 8 hours, you will totally get your money's worth. I personally did 3 to 4 runs myself. One thing that is a bit odd is a lack of proper option settings. It would have been nice to change the size of the resolution or have the ability to only play sound effects in order to record footage more easily, but it's not like that's game breaking or anything. At least you can configure your button prompts. Honestly speaking though, Undertale is pretty much my favorite game this year and part of my all-time collection even. In fact, it gets a lot of positive reception right now, to an extent that's not so common for indie games. Considering this game costs only $10, this is pretty much a steal for how much emotionally invested you will most likely be. I'm sure some of you may already be quite annoyed that the internet just won't shut up about it, be it in form of shouting or posting fanart, cause seriously there's already so much fanart, what the hell. But please don't let that overenthusiasm make you hate the game before you even played it yourself. After all, me liking this game so much, or many others, doesn't really matter. What matters is whether anything I just told you gave you an idea whether Undertale would be something to your liking. If you are still unsure, I highly recommend you to check out a free demo of the game that I will add as a link in the description. So please, give at least that a shot, instead of watching let's plays from other people, cause this is one of those experiences you can only have once. The less you know, the better. This is one of the reasons why I still left some things rather vague. The demo, combined with the video you just watched, will hopefully be enough to give you a good impression whether you should play Undertale.